Welcome everyone to Communication Skills. This is a community dementia education program of Alzheimer's San Diego. My name is Amy Abrams, and I am the Director of Education at Alzheimer's San Diego. Delighted today to be joined by my colleague, Kristen, who is a social worker on our team, one of our clinical care coaches, and will be helping out during the webinar today.
Hi, everyone. I'll try my best to get to all of your questions. If I'm not able to get to all of them, I'll give you instructions on what to do next.
So here are the topics that I intend to cover here today, our agenda. We're going to talk briefly about dementia and its symptoms. We're going to stay pretty focused, not on the disease itself today, but focusing primarily on brain changes that affect a person's ability to communicate, either to communicate directly themselves or to understand your communications. So I'm going to keep the discussion about Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia fairly brief, but want to make sure you know we have a lot of other education and information resources available if there's more that you need to know about the pathology of the disease, getting a diagnosis, and other symptoms beyond communication. So that's what we're going to focus on here today. Strategies for having effective conversations, or if conversations are not possible, staying connected and communicating with each other. We are also going to talk about behavioral expression. We have a whole other set of programs on the topic of responding to behaviors, but it's important for us to recognize that behavior is a form of communication. So we will be talking briefly about behaviors and how to respond to them in the context of communicating effectively. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some resources for ongoing learning and additional support. There will be some opportunities, as I mentioned before, for you to engage, to contribute in the chat. I would love to hear from you, but it is strictly optional. If you'd rather just sit back and listen, that is totally okay too. And there's going to be a short video as well. So we'll start here by talking about dementia and how it affects a person's ability to communicate. Okay, we'll start with the general, just making sure everybody's sort of speaking the same language, using the terminology the same way. The word dementia does not refer to any one particular medical condition or disease. Alzheimer's disease, for example, is a type of dementia. It's a very common cause of the symptoms, the syndrome that we refer to with the word dementia. So that word refers to this cluster of symptoms that include things like memory loss, changes to a person's language abilities, the ability to focus your attention and concentrate on another person, to engage in problem solving, sort of logical problem solving, or whatever way the person used to engage in thinking and reasoning their way through a problem. Notably, dementia frequently causes changes to a person's behavior. Their personality seems to change. They say and do things that are out of character, not necessarily for the worse, but these are changes from what was normal for that person. And finally, very important to be aware that dementia causes changes to a person's visual spatial abilities, because this does actually significantly impact a lot of the disconnect, the conflict that we find ourselves in with people who are living with dementia, is this sense that, like, are we on different planets, right? Are we listening to, interpreting our environments the same way? Because I feel like we are speaking different languages. Well, dementia causes significant changes to the structure and the chemistry of the person's brain. And it does, in fact, lead to different interpretations of what we're seeing and hearing and smelling, how we're interpreting what's going on around us. So a very quick introduction to the different regions of the brain will help sort of explain why we see some of these communication changes that we do. The temporal lobes are in the mid region of our brain. This is the part of the brain that in Alzheimer's disease and most forms of dementia is impacted by the disease first. So we see significant changes to short-term memory in particular, and to verbal language abilities pretty early on and throughout the disease progression in most people who are living with dementia. Every type of dementia has a different pathology. It spreads into different regions of the brain differently and has different symptoms and different impacts. So I'm speaking very generally here. Our frontal lobes, this is the big region on the screen there, the big yellow region behind our foreheads. This is where our sort of reason, our logic, our executive function, our ability to solve problems, to make decisions. This is where most of that is sort of housed. This is also, this is a very large and very complex part of the brain here that we're talking about. This is the part of our brain that allows us to kind of modulate our behavior. Right. If I get upset or, while I'm talking here, a thought about something that happened to me yesterday or this morning might drift through my mind that makes me laugh, that makes me angry, that makes me sad, right? But I've got the ability, because of sort of a healthy frontal lobe and the prefrontal cortex in particular, I've got the ability to sort of keep that under control, not respond to it, keep it in check, and sort of stay focused on what I'm doing. When there's damage in this part of the brain, that can be very hard for a person with dementia to do. So they experience a memory, they experience an emotion, it's right there for them, right? And they don't have so much ability anymore to kind of regulate their emotional responses, which of course impacts a person's ability to communicate dramatically. If you think about the person that you care for, you can probably think of examples when this has happened during a communication. It's very common. Notably, this is also the seat of our empathy, our ability to see things from another person's perspective. And so when there's damage in the frontal regions of the brain, it is very difficult for a person with dementia to literally see your side of things, right? To be able to envision what something looks like to you, to what it smells like to you, for example, but also sort of emotional empathy. We're having a conversation and I say something that's very hurtful, right? I'm very likely to be able to see that on your face or hear it in the things that you say in response to me because of my empathy abilities, right? And a person with dementia is probably going to have less of that. They're going to have less ability to understand, she's feeling upset right now. Gosh, was it something that I said? I think it was something that I said. All of that is very difficult for, those are complicated, complex cognitive tasks that our brains are doing. And when there's damage in this region of the brain, we're very likely to see what looks like apathy or a lack of caring, but that's really what it comes down to. It's a symptom of damage in that region of the brain. When there's damage in the parietal lobes, this is where we're going to see changes in a person's ability to perceive sensory information. So your ears, for example, take in the structures in your ears, take in the sound and help you hear things, right? But it's your brain that tells you what it is that you heard and makes sense of it, right? And gives you the ability to respond to it. So this is the part of the brain when there's damage there, we'll see more confusion. This is the sort of center of those moments of like, gosh, are we speaking the same language? Are we on the same planet right now? When there's damage in that part of the brain, it can really affect a person's ability to interpret their environment. It's not that they don't smell those things, feel that, the pain if something is hot or very cold on their skin. It's that their brain has a hard time interpreting what it is. The occipital lobe and the cerebellum, less relevant for our purpose, for our purposes of discussing communication again, but I didn't want to leave them out. The occipital lobe is very in the back of your brain there, very involved in your vision. The cerebellum, of course, connects directly to the brain stem, and this is the part of our brain that's controlling a lot of our motor skill as well as our involuntary processes. So again, I want to stay focused on communication. That's what we're here to talk about, but I think it's really helpful in those moments of frustration as a care partner to somebody who's living with dementia to remember these changes that we're seeing in this person, these moments of frustration, sometimes depending on what they're experiencing, you may be being accused of something, you're being confronted by something that's not true. All of this is frustrating. It's difficult to deal with, but it is made easier to deal with. It's easier for us to sort of dig and find our patience and our compassion and our forgiveness if we can remember those different regions of the brain, and that these are symptoms, right? This is not the person intentionally trying to push our buttons. So the most common changes that we'll see are listed for you here. Difficulty finding or understanding words, difficulty connecting what's seen with what is heard. One of the interesting things about the human brain is that we're sort of our wiring, if you will, for vision is stronger than our wiring for what we hear. So when we're communicating with someone with dementia, and this is really difficult in the age of communicating long distance, remotely, using telephones. But if we can use more visual cueing to accompany what we're saying, to show somebody what it is that we're saying, rather than just relying on spoken words and relying on their brain to interpret what they're hearing, we're going to be able to communicate a lot more effectively. So the room I'm sitting in right now, I can't actually see the door that's over my right shoulder. I know there's a door there though, right? Because I've got visual spatial awareness, I've got short-term memory, I'm oriented, I'm aware that there is that door over there. And if I were to hear the door open, my brain would tell me that came from over my right shoulder, there's a door over there, somebody is probably walking in the office, right? If I'm living with dementia and I hear that sound, right, my brain might not be able to make that connection. What I just heard, and if I later turned and I see somebody standing there, that might not have made sense to me. That of course there was going to be somebody standing there. Right. Individuals who are living with dementia may have difficulty filtering out background noise, or also just sort of movement. As you might even just in this webinar, you might be able to tell I'm a person that talks with my hands a lot. And when I'm speaking one-on-one with people who are living with dementia, I do try to control that, because my hands, if I'm not using them in a gesture that is helpful, right, to accompany, here, have a drink of water, right? If I'm not doing something that visually sort of goes along with what I'm saying, but instead I'm just using my hands and waving them near my face, I'm probably just causing distraction and making it harder for them to understand me. So frustration when communication isn't working, very common in people with dementia, right? If I can tell you're not getting what I'm saying, the words that I'm saying make perfect sense in my head, but you don't seem to be getting it, I'm very likely to become frustrated with you and want to kind of give up on that communication, either become angry or withdraw, very common. For individuals who speak more than one language fluently, it's common for them to sort of go back and forth, to switch back and forth between primary and secondary languages. And again, this is not on purpose. This is not something they're doing so that you can't understand them, but it does sometimes feel that way to us as caregivers. And then finally, repetition, maybe the most challenging of the what we call dementia-related behaviors that most care partners will encounter. Repeating the same statement, or often it's questions, repeating the same question over and over again is a very common symptom of dementia. And it's not happening because they're not listening to you. It's happening because the thought is coming back into their head. They don't remember the answer, or they don't remember having asked it to begin with. So all of these, again, and there are others, these are just the big ones, the most common of them. Remember that they are symptoms of the person's disease. One concept that's very important for care partners to keep in mind is the medical condition that we call anosognosia. And the word is up there on the screen for you because it can be a little hard to make sense of. Anosognosia, it comes from the ancient Greek for being without disease knowledge, not having an awareness that anything is wrong, that anything has changed with me, right? When all the people around me don't seem to understand what I'm saying, right? If I don't have anosognosia, if I don't have dementia, I'm very likely to be able to say, nobody here understood what I just said. Maybe I wasn't making sense. Let me try that a different way, right? If I am getting into more and more car accidents, I'm getting more and more dings in my car, right? I can connect those dots and say something is changing with my driving abilities. But about half of people with dementia have this condition that we call anosognosia. They have a lack of insight, a lack of awareness that they're losing their skills. And when a person is living with anosognosia, they have this deficit of self-awareness. It's sort of the catch-22 of many forms of dementia. You're trying to get me, as the person who's living with symptoms, to see that I need to go to the doctor and get a diagnosis because things are changing. I'm having some problems. You're trying to get me to agree to hire some in-home care for a little more support. I think I'm doing just fine, right? This looks to us like what? This looks like denial, right? This looks like I'm lying to you or trying to cover up things, when in fact, it's usually not denial. It's usually not pure stubbornness, the way it looks. What it usually is this lack of awareness. So in early dementia, what the occupational therapy information tells us is that about half of people with early stage dementia have anosognosia. They're not aware that things are changing with them. About 20% or so are aware that things are changing, and their reaction to that is to get very controlling over, if just everybody leave me alone, let me do my thing, stay out of my business, and then I'll be able to manage this, right? And then the rest of folks, about a third or so, have an awareness that things are changing with them, and their response is an anxious one. They're aware that they need support, they need other people to help them. These are the folks that are likely to get very concerned, to worry if you are not around for more than a few minutes or a few hours, right? They wonder where you've been. They're very aware that they rely on other people for assistance. So knowing sort of where they think about the person that you're caring for and think about where in this pie they fall. And yes, people can move back and forth. It's not a fixed state that a person might be in. We have to set realistic goals for communicating with people based on how much awareness they have about their condition. If somebody knows that they have Alzheimer's disease, they know they're living with the symptoms of dementia, we can have a very different conversation about giving up the car keys, for example, than with someone who has anosognosia and does not know that they don't remember that they're getting lost. They don't remember that they are having these little accidents, right? You're going to have a very different type of conversation. So when we're talking to somebody who's not aware, who has anosognosia, our goal is just to change their attitude about the thing that we're talking about, not to convince them you need to give up the car keys. Instead, we need to change the way they're thinking about the fact that I'm going to start doing all the driving. This doesn't always require, in fact, it usually doesn't require a really direct conversation wherein we say, the doctor said you have Alzheimer's disease, you have to stop driving, right? Instead, we're having a conversation about the fact that I am going to start doing the driving, right? I'll give you some examples of this, of what I mean by this. But our goal is not to convince the person. Our goal is not to bring them into our reality. Our goal is to understand where they're at, and have the conversation from there. Right? Avoiding arguments, avoiding pointing out, you have been getting into lots of little car accidents and you're having trouble. And so this is what we're going to have to do. This is not going to be an effective way to communicate with somebody who has anosognosia and also maybe some of these difficulties with empathy and perception, right? When somebody falls into that gray piece of the pie there, they're aware that things are changing with them and they have that controlling response to it. Our goal is just to stay as connected to them as we can, not to kind of alienate ourselves as we are trying to support them. So we don't want to point out that they're doing things wrong. We don't want to step in and do things sort of over them, step in and fix things in a very direct, overt kind of a way. Instead, we just want to sort of quietly go alongside them and provide support without pointing out things that they're doing wrong. And then when someone is aware that things are changing with them and feeling anxious about it, our goal is just constant reassurance. We are a team. I'm here for you, right? I'm here to help. So we want to be gentle. We want to keep in close to top of mind. What is it that makes this person tick? What makes them feel valuable? What gives them a sense of purpose? What do they enjoy? What gives their days, their moments meaning, and sort of stay connected to those things. I'll give you some examples and some opportunities to think about that in the person that you care for here in a moment. So we just have to kind of take a deep breath and recognize the hard truth about this situation is that your relationship with this person is changing, right? They can't change what's going on in terms of the disease, in terms of the progression and the impact that it's having on them or on their ability to communicate with you and the nature of your relationship. So it's really on us as care partners to adapt, to change the way that we, instead of reacting to things, changing the way we respond to what they're saying and what they're doing. I'll also a gentle reminder to all of us, we're all changing, right? We're getting older, we're experiencing physiological changes, but the experience of being a caregiver changes you too. So you are probably tired. You are probably emotionally drained. You are probably grieving, right? In some ways. You're changing too. And so I ask you to have empathy and for them as well, to recognize that those changes that you're going through have an impact on them, whether they're aware of it or not, right? When you're tired, when you're fatigued, when you're short, when you're impatient, they feel that too. Right. So you need support. You can't do this alone. And you need rest, you need a break from time to time. And we just have to sort of acknowledge things are changing in ways that we cannot always control, but there are some things that we can control, and that's mostly within the realm of our own responses. So just walked you through a lot that is changing with the person that you're caring for, in yourself, in the relationship that you have with that person. So just sort of a moment to recognize that and sort of pause and acknowledge it and grieve for it, right? There is a lot that we're losing. There's a lot that's changing. But I want to also remind you that some things have not changed in your person. No matter who they are, no matter where they are in this disease process, take a moment. And if you are up for it, in the chat, share with us what's something about the person that you care for that is the same, that hasn't changed with them. And in the chat, by the way, when you hit send, if you want everyone to see it, please select all panelists and attendees, and then everybody can see your answers. So if you have any thoughts on this that you want to share, please do. Tell me something about the person that you care for that is the same. some of the things they love. Something that, a joke, a video, a song that they have always loved, that they still love, an activity that they enjoy, something they're still good at, something they need now that they've always needed. Love of coffee came right came right at the right time there. Somebody who has always needed coffee, probably continues to need coffee when they have dementia. Oh, I see some wonderful reactions here. Someone who loved to be a hostess. The capacity to love hasn't changed. She's still my mom. Pleasant personality, a dog lover, a nature lover, still able to read. Wonderful point here. This person is still able to read, not sure whether or not she's retaining it, but the activity of reading is still enjoyable. That's such an important point. Teaching Sunday school, lovely. Going for walks, values and attends AA meetings as allowed. Yes, oh, wonderful. When not possible to attend, reads and calls fellow members to stay connected. Beautiful. Oh, pottery, that's lovely. Great. Gardening, oh, terrific. Good food, humor, joy, social abilities. Please keep these coming. These are beautiful examples. And I hope you can see most of each other's comments here, and that it will bring to mind something you kind of maybe forgot about in the person that you care for. We could spend all day here talking about their deficits and what's going wrong and what they're not able to do anymore and the losses that they're experiencing. And it's really important that we also take moments and remember what has not changed with them. Great. So thank you for sharing those. Please, if anything else comes to mind, you're welcome to continue sharing that in the chat with each other. We'll keep going here, but I'm going to ask you to keep that in mind, because we are going to come back to it in a few minutes here. So now let's talk about strategies for communication. First, happily, in the world of Zoom webinar, there's not much I can do to communicate with you except just sort of talk to you. But in real life, communication is far more than just language, right? There's so much more to communicating with another person than the words that we're actually saying. There's the tone that we use. There's the way we're using facial expression, our posture, right? If it's closed or if it's open and warm, you can't even see what I'm doing, but you probably have a feel, right? If I'm kind of hunched up, or if my arms are open and I'm feeling more open and connected to someone, right? My posture changes everything about your facial expression, your body language, right? The way that you're moving, our physical interactions, right? When we reach out a hand, you don't have to say a word. You can put your hand out to another person, and they understand that. At most stages of the disease, in most cultures, a person is going to be able to understand a touch, a hand being extended to them, a wave, right? A smile. Right. And then, of course, behavior is an important form of communication. We'll come back to that topic again here in a minute. So if we want to try to have a successful conversation with a person who's living with dementia, who is still able to engage in verbal conversation, it's important that we sort of set ourselves up for success. Take a moment to make sure that you've established a connection before you just walk in and start talking. These are concepts that come to us from Teepa Snow, who is an occupational therapist. I referenced her earlier on that earlier slide about anosognosia. Teepa Snow is an occupational therapist and a dementia educator who trained me and several of the other members of our team here at Alzheimer's San Diego in a method called the positive approach to care. And it's all about recognizing the changes that are happening in the person's brain. And before you just sort of walk in, invade somebody's personal space, right? Come in and touch them, even if it's just a handshake, if it's, you're fixing something on their hair or buttoning their top for them, right? We need to sort of have the person's permission to get into their physical space. We'll these concepts apply in conversation too, right? Before you just, walk into the room and start talking to somebody, make sure they know you're there. And that they're expecting for you to interact with them. Remember the changes to the person's field of vision, the changes in the parietal lobe that might be changing what and how they're interpreting their environment. Remember that that's going on with them. So you don't want to just walk in, maybe they're seated watching television and you're kind of behind them, depending on the setup of the room, and just start talking and expect them to be able to just quickly switch gears, turn around, know that you're there, and engage in a conversation with you. So get into a position where you have good eye contact, where you can be in a physical position that's not too close and sort of maybe feels uncomfortable or threatening to the person, but you're in a physical position where even with their narrow field of vision, they can see you. Of course, all of these rules these guidelines are different when a person has vision impairment. I have to acknowledge that too. We have to do that differently, but generally speaking, right, get into their field of vision, but sort of pause where you're far enough away that you're not, right up in their space. Offer a brief introduction. Hey, it's me, Amy. Right? Something that, visually gets them looking at you, that orients them to, if possible, to who you are and why you're there. Yes, I might be your daughter, and you've known me my whole life, but if you're living in a moment of confusion right now, it could be very helpful for me to say, hey, Mom, it's me, your daughter, Amy. I throw it out there, establish that relationship instead of making her kind of work for it and struggle. Be mindful of your tone, your volume, right? That it's loud enough for them to hear you, you're articulating clearly, but that you're not sort of yelling, right? A person who's having difficulty understanding because of dementia is not necessarily hard of hearing. They likely also have some hearing loss, right? Most older adults do, but just be aware that raising your voice doesn't make you any easier to understand in most cases. So be aware of your sort of body language, your tone, keeping your tone sort of warm and conversational whenever possible, and slowing your speech down, right? Lots of pauses, giving them the opportunity to sort of catch up. And that may also require that you repeat yourself. We'll talk about that. Remember that there are many other ways that we can connect and communicate with somebody aside from just the words that we're speaking. But when we are speaking, what we can do, right? Keep those sentences short and clear, give instructions or directions for something one step at a time. Remembering the changes in the frontal lobe that make it hard for them to sequence things and process multi-step information. Give them one piece of information at a time, pause before you ask for the next step or give the next set of instructions. If you're asking somebody to make a choice, it's very kind to a person with dementia to limit the number of choices that they have, instead of like, what do you want to have for breakfast, right? There's the whole world of breakfast options. I have to sort of run through in my brain. What's there? What do we have? What sounds good? What is she good at making? Right. So instead, if you say, would you like some toast with peanut butter, or would you like a waffle? Right. Limiting the number of choices that you're asking the person to make during the course of a day is helpful, but also limiting the number of options that they have when you give them those choices. Very, very helpful. Repeating yourself. Here it is. Part of pausing and giving the person that opportunity to sort of catch up with you when you're talking. One very helpful strategy for doing this is repeating yourself, and repeating yourself exactly the same way, which is very, very hard to do, right? Would you like toast with peanut butter, or would you like a waffle? And if you don't get a response, right, your natural inclination is to say, oh, we have some sourdough bread. Do you want me to make you some toast with some peanut butter on it? Or there's also those frozen waffles. Do you want some of that? Right. So that's a very natural thing for us to do. We throw in more information, we give more details, we say it a little differently. Maybe this time it'll jog a response, but that's actually not a helpful strategy for a person with dementia. So you want to try to say it the same way. Would you like toast with peanut butter, or would you like a waffle? Would you like toast with peanut butter, or would you like a waffle? Right? Try to say it the same way. It feels very awkward. It feels very uncomfortable. Even just doing that little demonstration is awkward, but it's very, very helpful to them. You say it the same way. You don't say it with annoyance in your voice the second or third time you've said it, right? You're giving them that opportunity to sort of catch up, hear it again, and maybe it'll make more sense the second time. Right? When we're talking like that, we're repeating ourselves, we're managing our tone very carefully. For a lot of people, especially people who have raised children or who currently spend a lot of time with children, it can be very easy to slip into baby talk. Or sometimes we refer to this as elder speak, where we refer to someone as honey or dear, right? If that hasn't been a pet name that you've always used with the person. We really don't want to do that. We want to speak to people directly. We want to speak to them as the adults that they are, and not slip into kind of baby talk tones or words with them. So do your best not to argue, not to correct the person if they're getting the facts wrong. I'm going to talk more about this. Don't remind the person that they have forgotten something. This is not a helpful strategy. It's very normal, very natural reaction from us to do that. Remember, we just talked about this an hour ago, right? I don't know how many times I say that in the course of a day when I'm interacting with my husband or other members of my family, right? We just talked about this. That's not helpful to a person who's living with dementia, right? So we have to try to kind of break those habits. Don't question them or quiz their memory, right? What time am I coming tomorrow? What did I say, right? Those types of quizzes and challenges are not helpful to a person who's living with the cognitive changes related to dementia. And above all else, try not to take these communication challenges that you're experiencing with them. Try not to take it personally. I know, sometimes the nature of your relationship with this person has been that they like to sort of get a rise out of you. They like to push your buttons. We all have those people in our lives. So yeah, it can be tricky if that's the person you're caring for, and they do like to sort of needle you a little bit. But remember that in the vast majority of cases, whatever the person is saying or doing, if it's out of character for them, in all likelihood, this is a matter of a brain change that they're experiencing. This is a symptom of their disease, right? This is not something that they're doing on purpose. So instead, what we want to try to do is speak more generally, speaking more positively, instead of challenging the person, instead of constantly walking around and pointing out to them what they're doing wrong, trying to fix things, do things over them, do things to them, right? We want to kind of bring them into our conversation. So if you're asking someone to do something, rather than telling them what not to do, which is very, it's sort of the shortcut. It's the easy way to sort of get what you need, right? Don't use that door, use that door, right? Well, if I'm a person living with dementia, you just pointed out two different doors to me, right? You're causing some confusion for me. So instead, just tell me, Amy, I want you to use that door, right? Point to it if you can, right? Give me the gesture that shows me what you want me to do. Don't even point out to me that there is another door that you don't want me to go out of, right? So please do this rather than don't do that. Right? Positive terminology, positive speech. As best you can, maintain a spirit of forgiveness, generosity. I know after a long day, after a night with very little sleep, managing all of the things that you're managing in the course of a day, when you get that same question asked for the 10th time, it can be very hard to be generous and forgiving in those moments, right? Take a deep breath, try to answer the same way, right? If you answer, with sharpness, impatience in your voice, they hear that, they understand that, but they don't know where it's coming from, right? They don't remember having asked the first 9 times. And so, imagine that you ask someone a question and they snap their answer back at you, right? That's hard to understand. You're very likely to trigger more tension, and maybe things sort of spiral into a whole behavioral episode, right? Whereas if you could take a deep breath, remember, this is a symptom of their disease. They're not just not listening. It's not that they're just not paying attention, right? They don't remember that they've already asked me this question. I'm going to answer it as though it's the first time, right? And a very important point here, as you've probably heard me alluding to a couple of times along the way, is that sometimes being kind is more important than being fully honest, right? So when we're having those tough conversations about the car keys, about driving, about, whatever it might be, if we need to tell little white lies, right? If we need to withhold some of the facts of a situation in order to protect the person's dignity, to help keep them oriented, right? Remember, we went to the doctor and she said that you weren't safe to drive. So she reported it to your diagnosis to the DMV, and we sold your car. Right? If the person doesn't remember any of those things happening, and this is new information to them, right? It's not likely to be well tolerated. It's likely to be very bad news, a big surprise, and a very unhappy surprise. Right. So if you've had that conversation more than once and it's not getting through, don't keep hitting your head against that particular brick wall. Right. Learn to leave some information out. Oh, yeah, the neighbor kid needed to borrow the car, so he's going to have it for a few days. Right. We give you permission here at Alzheimer's San Diego to tell what we call little therapeutic fibs. Right. Little white lies that are not intended to be manipulative, to deceive in an unkind kind of a way, but to sort of help you stay connected to the person. The trick for all of this is learning how to focus on what the person is expressing with not the words, not the facts, not the actual sounds that they are making with their mouth, right? Paying less attention to the words being spoken, paying more attention to the emotion that they are expressing, right? They could be saying something that's totally factually incorrect. They could be saying something that doesn't even make any sense to you. Right. We had a question submitted via email yesterday on this topic. It's a really great question. If somebody is saying something to me, I think it was the person's husband in this instance, he's making sounds, right? Or the person could be using words, but the way that they're stringing the words together, for example, it just doesn't actually make any sense, right? In that moment, how are you, if they are struggling to communicate something to you verbally, how am I supposed to respond, right? I can't guess at what they're saying and make something up because I'm probably going to respond in the wrong way. What should I do? Right. So what we do in these situations is we employ a technique that we call in social work, we call it validation, right? Recognizing, what feelings the person is expressing and trying to respond to those instead. So we do this by recognizing, what the person is communicating emotionally, right? If you can't understand the words, read the facial expressions. Are they telling you that they feel uncomfortable? Are they telling you something that's funny and they look animated and excited about it, right? Respond to that, recognize that, affirm whatever it is that they're feeling. So some other words for this, for validation: agreement, reassurance, understanding, and then there's that concept again, empathy, right? So someone's saying something to you that you're really struggling to understand, right? You mean, of course, you want to employ your normal conversational skills and see if they can help, right? Maybe slow it down. Can you try that again? I'm sorry that I didn't understand you. Can you try it again? Right? Ask them to repeat it, help them sort of slow down and see if you can help them get the words out. And if they can't, right, and your person best, right? That may not be a strategy that's going to be helpful for them. Try to read into the emotion. If they look excited about something, you get excited too. Oh my gosh, right? You respond to the emotion, sort of play and respond to them rather than sort of getting tripped up in the words and the facts of the situation. So I just want to sort of show you some examples of, what this might look like. And of course, these are conversations, these are words. This isn't just sort of gibberish or sounds, but, a person says to you, you spent all day cooking well, roasting a chicken. You don't have to roast a chicken all day, but you put in a lot of effort to make somebody their favorite dish. You know they like chicken. They just ate this last week and they really enjoyed it. And then they say to you, I don't want to eat this. I hate chicken, right? What's your agenda here, right? You're not gonna make something else, right? You've got limited time, you've got limited energy and capacity. You got to get them to eat this chicken. That's your agenda. That's what you're after here. But what you don't want to do is say something like, "What? You told me you wanted chicken. I made this for you. I'm not making something else, right? This is what you're gonna eat." Right? What's something that you could say that might be more validating? If you know they do like chicken, but in this moment, right, they're confused, they're disoriented, they don't recognize this as being that dish that they like, right? What could you say that might be more validating? Something like, I'm so sorry, I was in a rush. I guess it just slipped my mind, right? Let me go see what else we have. Right? You pick up the plate, you walk away, distract them for a little bit, and maybe try again, right? In a few moments. You, in your response here, you were affirming and validating. You didn't argue with them. You didn't try to convince them this is your favorite. You like this, right? You didn't dispute the facts. I'm not making another dish. You're going to eat this. Right? Instead, you're just joining them in their reality. This is what we mean by validation. This is also an example of one of those little white lies, right? I'm not going to go in the kitchen and make something else and find what we have, but I'm going to say something kind in this moment, right? That doesn't confront you with the fact that you right now don't remember that you like this particular dish. Right. Another example, you show up for, to pick them up for that 11 o'clock appointment for the doctor, and they're surprised to see you. They're not ready. They can tell that you're rushed and you're anxious, right? Because you look at them and see that they're not ready and they're reading all your signals, right? Well, you didn't tell me about this doctor's appointment. I'm not going, right? So you've got that you can respond to the facts by saying something like, you go to this doctor every 3 months. It's right here on your calendar. I just called you an hour ago to tell you I was coming, right? Facts, facts, facts. And you're correct, right? You'd win in a court of law, right? But in that moment, where are you going to get with that? It's right there on the calendar. Well, they didn't see it, or, they think you just wrote it just now, right? So instead, something that might be more validating. Oh, did I forget to tell you about this appointment? I've just been so busy. I'm really sorry about that. But you know what? Right? If what you're sensing in their reaction, you didn't tell me about this. You see that they're feeling frazzled, right? Don't respond to the facts of that. Look at what they're experiencing. Look at what they're listen and sort of sense what emotion they're trying to tell you. I feel flustered. I feel rushed. Right? You're showing up here and telling me I have to get dressed right now and go to the doctor. I'm feeling flustered. I'm feeling like I don't have control over my own life, right? Think about what they're not saying, but what they're expressing, right? Through what they're saying or how they're saying it, and try responding to that. I'm really sorry. I thought I told you about this appointment, but I've been really busy and I guess I just forgot. But you know what? There's plenty of time. Let's just, we'll find some comfortable shoes for you to wear, and then we'll go for a nice walk at the lake by the doctor's office after the appointment, right? We're not getting into the, no, it's right here. I can prove, I'll pull up my call records and show you that I called you an hour ago to remind you, right? We don't need to get into that. It's not going to be effective. And even if it is effective, right? Maybe you do jog their memory and they do now remember, I do like chicken, or I did know I had that doctor's appointment, right? Are you really helping them in that moment, right? You're really just reminding them of what they're forgetting, right? So what this all comes down to is learning how to say more yes and trying to say a little less no to people, right? So these are concepts that are really core and central in improvisational theater. If anybody's ever been to an improv show or watched improv on TV, it's usually comedy, but not always, right? It's really about having a partner and learning to listen and respond to them. So the fundamental concept of improvisation is whatever scenario you are handed, whatever your partner says to you, you can't disagree with it, right? You have to say, okay, yes, and you have to add something to it, right? That's what improv is all about. So we actually have a workshop, a program here at Alzheimer's San Diego called Living in the Moment for anyone who's interested in that, where myself and two improvisational theater instructors teach through playing games, through doing improv activities together. We practice this, learning to say more yes to the person, not arguing, not confronting, doing a little less of the saying no. And we're saying yes. So that's on our calendar if anyone wants to look that up. We'll be offering that shortly. So now let's talk about behavior, because behavior is, above all else, it's a form of communication, right? And what do I mean exactly when I say behavior? I'm talking about an out of character response, something that this person, before they had the symptoms of dementia, before their brain had started to experience these changes, would they have said this? Would they have done this? Would they have reacted to this situation in this way? And if the answer is no, we call that a dementia behavior. We don't mean to imply that it's negative. It is a symptom of the disease. It's a way of communicating, and it's a way of expressing, I need something from you. We have other classes, other programs, and also informational materials at Alzheimer's San Diego that we can share with you on any of these topics that you see here on the screen. I'm not going to focus on them here today. I just want to give you some examples of what we mean when we talk about behavioral expression, right? Most of these terms will be familiar to you. A couple I'll explain. Shadowing is just when a person really wants to stay close, physically close to their primary care partner. They feel unsafe or uncertain when that person is out of view. Disinhibition, right? This could be undressing in public places, saying things that are, making comments about other people's appearance, for example, right? Saying things that are disinhibited. Again, remember, there's changes in that frontal lobe that don't sort of pull the person back and tell them not to say that thing that they're thinking. And then sundowning is probably the last of the terms here that might not be clear to everyone. Sundowning refers to a very common behavior in people living with dementia, where in the hours just prior to and around the time of sunset, they become more disoriented, more agitated. We might see more physical restlessness. Those are very common behaviors, particularly in the mid-stage of dementia. So in responding to a person's behavior, again, we have whole other programs on this, but I want to just sort of point out here, I'm not talking about how to make the person stop doing it, right? I'm talking about how do we respond to it. Again, this comes back to us and how we need to change, right? So we're not talking about how to make the person stop doing it. They can't change what's going on in their brain, but what we can do is assess, is there something physical, medical, emotional, something in their environment, what's going on with this person? And might I be able to address that by making a change, right? Giving them a glass of water, turning the lights on because, we're trying to have this conversation and it's too dark in this room. Is there something I can fix about how they're feeling or their environment that might help eliminate the behavior? If not, or maybe even if so, really important that we validate this person's experience. I see that you're uncomfortable, right? I'm going to try to help you. And ultimately, our goal is always to redirect them, right? To get their attention on something else. But we're not going to be effective at redirecting somebody's attention if we haven't first see, is there something physical? Are they uncomfortable in some way? Letting them know, I see you, I hear you, I can see that you're uncomfortable and I'm going to try to help you. And then we try to distract them and redirect them. We can't just skip right to that step. So very briefly, all behavior has a trigger, has an underlying cause. You might not be able to figure it out, but it's always worth investigating, right? Are they experiencing some type of pain or just sort of general discomfort, right? Having to use the restroom, for example, and not really understanding why am I Why am I so uncomfortable? Is there something emotional going on? Are they feeling afraid? Are they feeling frustrated? Are they bored, not getting enough, as social or intellectual activity during the course of the day? Might there be something medical going on with this person, right? Not everything that they experience is related to their dementia, right? They could also be having an illness, and they could be experiencing an infection, depression, anxiety, having a cardiovascular event, right? All behavior is not necessarily just something related to physical or the day-to-day, basic needs of food and water and needing to eliminate, or an emotional response. If you're seeing a dramatic change in a person's behavior, it could be something medical that's going on. It's important that we don't overlook that. And then finally, environmental causes. Is there too much clutter? Is there too much background noise? We try to engage in this conversation or communication with the TV or the radio on, or the dogs running around causing distraction. And importantly, I, as the caregiver, is my stress level, is my fatigue, is my frustration part of the problem here? Right. It very well could be, in which case it is important to remove yourself, get a break, let somebody else step in for a little while, right? And so that you can come back a bit refreshed. So we first check, is there something physical, medical, environmental, emotional that I can address here? And then we move to that step of validation, responding to their behavior, responding to what they're communicating about with calm, with reassurance. I'm here to help. I see that you're uncomfortable, and I'm going to try to help, right? Even if you can't figure it out, you don't know what's causing it, you don't exactly know in this moment how you're going to help, telling the person that you see that they need something from you and that you are going to try to help them is often the most important thing that they need to hear in that moment. So communicate your understanding, even if you don't actually understand, right? This is where those improv skills come in handy. Communicating your empathy, and again, responding to their feelings, not the actual words that they're saying. So I want to show you a short video here. So bear with me while I switch my screen around a little bit. This is a recording of Teepa Snow, the occupational therapist and dementia care guru that I mentioned earlier. You can find this video on her website along with many others. I'm going to play this from her YouTube channel. This is actually a lecture on challenging behaviors, but I want you to watch the way that she communicates with this person. I'm going to play it at the beginning, then I'm going to skip a bit of lecture because we've covered the concepts. Then I'm going to show you sort of how she resolves the situation. So bear with me here for just 1 second.
Challenging behaviors, that's how we see it. They're misbehaving. They have problem behaviors. We've got to do something about this. Now, I'm going to call a timeout right now because the biggest problem we have right here is you've already identified the source of the behavior. You're pretty sure it's them and what they're doing. Timeout.
Okay, I'm just going to skip through some lecture here and show you how she handles this. And then, so I want you to pay attention to what's going on, but specifically how you see Teepa Snow communicating with this woman.
Both of us making a positive difference because we choose positive approach to the care. Now remember this lady? What do you think she's doing? You see her beating on the chairs, making noise, annoying people, and you know she needs to go to the bathroom. It's been a long time. You've tried to make her stop, but she won't. What if I told you she used to clean houses for a living? I'm going to try substitution and a positive approach rather than trying to make her quit. Miss Leona. Well, hey there.
Get your hand.
Get my hand out the way. You're trying to get him clean. Here, try this. She's a busy woman.
There you go.
I'm going to try a substitution here.
I'll trade you.
Not yet. Show her.
Rub it with that. Can you rub it?
Yeah.
Here, rub
We're
it.
getting there.
Trade me.
Wait.
Trade me. Here you go. Take this.
All right, give it.
You got it. Now trade out. There you go.
Ta-da.
Now rub it.
Now I show her, and there she goes.
There we go.
People are
Good.
less annoyed, not so much noise. And she's cleaning. Now I want to reinforce it. That's good. That's good.
2 more to
But I
go.
still haven't met
You're doing a fantastic job.
her unmet need. One more substitution.
Nicely done, Leona.
She needs to get finished with this
Boy, you are good.
so we can move on.
You get this one?
Watch me, I'm sneaky.
That's it. Good. Good.
I visually eliminate the task.
Whoa. Woo. That is beautiful. You did a fantastic job. Man, you're a good cleaner.
Here.
Thank you. All right, well, come with me and we'll sit down and take a break.
Oh, God.
I know you're ready for
I'm
one, aren't you?
tired.
Now,
don't
before
blame
she
you.
goes to sit down, though,
wore out.
we have a place to go.
Oh, girl, you worked hard.
Oh, God.
You are one of the hardest working women I've ever met.
Yeah.
Well, Lord knows. Let's go to the ladies before we sit down, though.
Okay.
Okay.
We changed the challenge to success.
So what did you notice in that? Feel free to put your answers in the chat. What did you notice about some of the things the ways that Teepa Snow communicated with Leona in that scene? Lots of compliments. Yep. A creative redirection. Yes. Yeah. She used the fact that she could guess that Leona probably had a narrow field of vision to sort of stop her from engaging in that behavior. She entered into her world. She was respectful. She was positive. She supported her in completing her tasks. Yeah, great, great. Yes, I love this response. She knew this person, right? She had to know something about Leona in order to come up with the thing that was going to be helpful to her in that moment. Absolutely. One of my key observations comes right at the beginning of the second part of that video. Leona kind of snaps at her. You know, she when Teepa gets in her face and is down there, she's not doing anything disrespectful, but Leona feels disrupted, right? And she snaps at her. She's like, "Get out of here." She says something like that. Teepa responds to her by mirroring her exactly. She said, I'm in the way, or, you know, I can't remember exactly what she said. But in no way was that off-putting to her, right? She understood this, you know, she's engaging in a behavior. She's trying to get me out of her way. Yes, she's validating her, right? I'm being annoying to you. I'm in your way is basically what she said to her. A very effective technique, and it sort of builds their rapport right away, because she doesn't start off by kind of getting into it with her, right? She's letting Leona say, "You're bothering me. You are interrupting what I'm trying to do here." And then it all gets better from there, right? So that moment right at the very beginning. And then I do think you're all hitting all the highlights of that video. She treated her with kindness, with respect. She didn't get into a negotiation with Leona about substituting the maraca for the cloth. She did this when I talked about speaking with positive language. It was like, "Here, use this, try this. Let me show you," right? There was no negotiating about it. It was very direct. It was kind and it was warm, and she was very connected to her, right? She was down, crouched low, where she knew she was going to be in Leona's field of vision, not trying to talk over her back or from behind the chair, right? Somewhere else. She was down there where they could connect. but she didn't engage in negotiation. She also never told Leona until the very, very last bit there that they were going. Her whole point of this interaction here was to get her to stop doing this so they could go to the bathroom, right? She never said that. She had her plan, she had her agenda, she knew where they were going to end up, but she never said it, right? She validated her experience. You're busy, right? And you've been working hard, let's take a break. So I think that's a really nice example, right? The redirection in that example, right, was, whoo, you've been working hard, we need to take a break, right? Instead of focusing on the task at hand. So I want to get you again thinking about the person that you care for. And you can respond in the chat to this, or you can just sort of reflect on it quietly if you prefer. It's up to you. Go back to that thing that you thought about a few minutes ago, right? The thing about your person that hasn't changed, the fact that they love to garden, that they love dogs, that they love to entertain, that they're a hostess, that they have a sense of humor. Think again about that thing about them that hasn't changed, a thing that they can still enjoy. Or if you have a new idea, if a new idea has come up for you, that's great too. So when we talk about redirecting, often the redirection is towards some other activity, right? We're trying to get them to stop talking about that thing that we don't want to keep talking about, or we want to get them to stop doing that thing. Like in that video that you just saw, she wanted her to stop banging the maracas because it was bothering other people in the environment. So she needed to find some other means of occupying Leona's hands, keeping her busy, right? So she did that with a cloth. So think about ways that you might redirect by connecting through other senses. Instead of just trying to change the topic of conversation, instead of talking about something, what's something that you might do if you were able to, be in person with this person, or if you, support them long distance and you have somebody local who can help you with this, right? What's something some other way of connecting with this person through their other senses, right? So some examples of this, responding through touch, a favorite pet that they always respond to, or even just a stuffed animal or a blanket that feels soft and fuzzy if there's somebody that loves animals. Sight, a photograph of a special place that they enjoy, the view from a window, watching a movie that they consistently enjoy, a smell that they like, the baking cookies or a simmering pot of soup, the smell of coffee, a calming aroma, right? Using oils, other things that smell nice, calming fragrances. Taste, of course, we connect through food all the time. Don't overlook this as a strategy for connection. A favorite old recipe, a soothing cup of tea, and then sound. I think music in particular is an incredibly effective form of connecting and communicating with someone without having to use any words at all. Playing a piece of music that they love, something they can sing along to, and don't knock it till you've tried it. Even people that aren't terribly verbal anymore often can still sing. This sort of comes from a different region of our brain, a deeper, older region of our brain that doesn't tend to get damaged too extensively in most forms of dementia. So enjoying music, listening to bird song. It's one of my current favorite activities this time of year. All the new bird songs are starting to emerge, right? What are some other things that you can do? Oh, wonderful. I'm seeing some nice comments here about using music, right? Coming alive. Yeah, there's a beautiful documentary called Alive Inside. If you haven't watched it, I believe it's streaming on Netflix, that you can watch the power of music to connect to people who don't communicate verbally. It's pretty remarkable. So using these other senses to redirect a person is often a very effective strategy. If you can't physically relocate them to another place, right? If you can't take their hand and walk them into another room, get them outside for a walk, often, putting down a photo album, turning on a nice piece of music, putting a cup of coffee or tea or something that smells nice in front of them can often be a nice way to just sort of reset and redirect their attention. So Kristen, I will ask if there are any questions that have come in on these topics in the Q&A that we can respond to.
There are. We've gotten a lot of wonderful questions. One of them, and this is very poignant right now in the age of COVID, one of our attendees is a long distance caregiver and is trying to connect with their brother over the phone. So if they were wondering if you had any tips on carrying a conversation over the phone with someone living with dementia.
Oh, it's so difficult. It is a great question and particularly poignant right now. And I will also say we have another class on the topic of long distance caregiving where we do actually talk about that. But in the absence of that, a short answer for that is, first of all, just doing what you can. This will probably take some coordination with someone on the other side. So if they live alone, you might need to get someone on the other end to kind of help you, but just making sure that where they have the conversation is a room that's comfortable, right? That's free of distraction, that the television isn't on, that there aren't, there's not a big picture window that they sit in front of and they're going to get distracted by other things going on outside, maybe closing curtains, covering a mirror, for example, doing what you can to reduce the amount of distraction that the person has while they're trying to listen on the phone. Of course, identifying and correcting for any hearing deficit would be really important. If you need to get, you can get special devices that make it easier for a person who's got hearing loss to communicate by telephone. We can connect you to information and resources for these tools if you need them. If there is a way for what a lot of folks will do is have an object, depending on the nature of the conversation that you're trying to have. If there's an album, a book that you could both have a copy of, people will make like those Shutterfly albums, right? Make 2 copies of it and send them one, and then you can look through them together so that you're both kind of working from the same set of visual cues. That can be helpful. It's very hard to be visual on a phone call. I see in the chat somebody made the recommendation, is FaceTiming an option, right? If using video conferencing software, Zoom, FaceTime, Google, whatever it might be, if that's an option, I wouldn't expect a person, with dementia to be able to learn how to use a new device. But if there's someone on the other end who can support them in getting them set up with a device that they could video conference with, often being able to see your face while you're talking, being able to look at something together. I can, pick something up and show it to you, right? And then we can have a conversation about it. The visual will help a lot. But I certainly wouldn't want to cause frustration in somebody that isn't able to sort of learn that new technology. Yeah. And of course, just thinking about your own communication techniques, go back to slowing things down, pausing, repeating yourself, right? Speaking as clearly and as warmly as you can. Don't forget to, at the start of the conversation, make sure they know who you are, right? Don't make assumptions that, she'd never forget my voice, right? You never know in those moments of confusion. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more?
Yeah.
Someone else had asked, so their mother is often remembering sad events from her past and repeating them a lot. They are wanting to know, is this normal?
Oh, this is so hard. Yes, it is absolutely normal. Normal, of course, is a relative term. It is a symptom of the disease. It is to be expected, I should say. I want to be careful about saying that it's normal. It's a symptom, and it's a really hard one. Early in my social work career, I had a client with dementia who had been a Holocaust survivor, and these were things that she could remember, and what tragedy, right? So yes, people may be having fresh memories of losing someone that they love, hearing bad news, right, over and over again. Ruminating is what we call that, when somebody's sort of stuck on an old, sad, or even frightening memory. I would encourage you to not try to stop it. I know that the impulse, it's very normal, it's very natural. You want to comfort the person by saying, that's in the past, or they're not here anymore. If it's, someone or something that scares them, you're safe now, right? Getting the person to hear, you're safe now, everything's okay, right? That's what they need to hear, not the facts of the situation. So if somebody is grieving the loss of a spouse, for example, let them grieve it. Right. It's very hard for us to sort of watch somebody feel sad, but it's actually probably going to be a much more successful interaction if you can say to them, I see that you really miss Dad. I miss him too. Right. Something like that. Get them feeling like it's okay to be feeling sad right now. Maybe that opens up some opportunity to share memories, and then you can redirect to the happy topic. Remember that silly outfit he always wore, right? That you can redirect to something that's funny and pleasant without negating their experience, right? Respond to their feelings, not the facts of the situation. Anything else?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, great. Wonderful questions. Thank you all. Okay, so let's make sure that you've got what you need in the way of resources for ongoing support, because I just have to recognize I don't make any of these recommendations lightly. I don't assume that any of this is easy to do, right? This is this is exhausting. Katie Reed is a mental health blogger who wrote the best succinct description of self-care I've read yet. Self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So I encourage you, I know it can be very hard. You're here attending this webinar because you care about doing what's right for the person who's living with dementia that you support, or if it's a family member, if it's a friend, if it's a client, right? If you're a professional, maybe it's a group of people that you support. Right, but they need a lot from you. We can't really sugarcoat that. This is hard. This takes mental energy. This takes creativity. This takes thinking on your feet. And you cannot do those things if you are fully depleted, right? So it is essential. This is not touchy-feely, new agey, warm and fuzzy stuff here. It is essential that you are taking care of yourself, because you have limited energy, you have limited resources to give to another person if your cup is empty, right? So we encourage you to do a quick sort of scan of a self-evaluation. How are you doing? Are you eating well? Are you drinking enough water during that? You can get so caught up in the day-to-day, even if you're not a hands-on, local, live in the same house kind of a caregiver, right? Caring for somebody long distance, caring about somebody that you love who's living with these changes is consuming. We recognize that. So you might not be eating nutritious meals, staying hydrated, getting a few minutes of exercise or staying active, engaging in those activities that are important to you. What do you love, right? We spend a lot of time thinking about how they love gardening, how they love music, right? What do you love? Do you have enough time to engage in those things for yourself? How's your sleep? Probably not good. My guess. Sleep, managing stress. If any of these are areas where you see gaps between your sort of optimal health and where you're at, we really want to support you in filling those gaps. Are you able to stay socially connected and active? Are you getting opportunities to learn new things, to connect with other people? When was the last time you went to the doctor or to a dental appointment or got your own hearing checked or your eyeglasses? your prescription checked, right? Are you taking care of your own health? All of this stuff is essential. You can't be a good caregiver to another person whose needs are as deep, as complex, and as 24/7 in nature as a person with dementias are, if you're not caring for yourself. So if you were looking at that list, and I can't see you, but I bet there was a lot of eye rolling and like, sure, yeah, I'm getting exercise every day, Amy, or 8 hours of sleep a night, right? If you saw that list and thought that that all seemed unreasonable, right? We really want to support you in helping to build your support system, learning to ask for help, learning to accept help when it is offered to you. These are two of the best skills that we can develop as caregivers beyond any of the communication strategies or hands-on skills that we can teach you. Just being able to recognize that you need help and being willing to accept it. Is top of the list in caregiver skill set. Stay connected to people and activities that feed you, right? Literally or figuratively, your social connections, or build new ones. If you're struggling with staying connected, it's hard to do, especially right now when we all have to stay physically apart from one another for a while longer here. If you don't already attend a support and discussion group, please find one, and we can connect you to our list of virtual support groups that are meeting. I think like 6 days a week, day, night. We can help you find a group somewhere of other folks who understand the challenges that you're dealing with. Being able to get ideas from people, being able to laugh about what's going on, right? Just the moments of absurdity, it can be very hard to appreciate them with other people, without other people, I should say. So being with people who have true empathy for what this type of caregiving is like is really important. And you absolutely have to have a break every day. I'm not talking about taking long vacations, although they're great if you can get them. But if it's like 5 minutes of the day where you can breathe deeply, clear your head, get a little sunshine, get outside for a walk, whatever it might be, you have to be able to step away and take a break every day. Even if, that means calling in for reinforcements, right? At a certain point in the disease process, you might not be able to leave your person alone for even 5 minutes, right? So that means you're going to have some backup. Right. A program that we offer at Alzheimer's San Diego is our virtual Alz Companions program. Before the pandemic, we had Alz Companions were volunteers who went into our clients' homes 4 hours a week to be a friend, to sit and talk, to be that person, to listen to the bird song together, or cook the bowl of soup, or go for a walk, or look at photo albums, so that a care partner could step away, get that little bit of respite and a break, but also giving the person with dementia the opportunity to talk to somebody new, right? Tell that story for the 10th time, right? Because somebody who hasn't already heard it 10 times this morning. Right. So we're currently still offering this program, but we do it virtually with volunteers like Tyon, the other members of our volunteer tech team. We can help you get set up with a device so that you can have virtual visits. And the Alz Companions, the virtual visits are conversation. People do exercise together. They share screens and take tours of museums together. They go to the zoo virtually together, right? They can do all sorts of fun and creative things to connect, gives the person with dementia a new friend, a new source of connection, and again gives care partners an opportunity to just step away, right? Not be the social director for a few minutes. Right. So that's just one of many supports that we offer here at Alzheimer's San Diego. We are a local nonprofit organization. We're headquartered in Kearney Mesa, but we serve people throughout San Diego County, and also, of course, lots of long distance caregivers as well. So, or if you're local and you care for somebody who's outside of San Diego, right? If you found your way to us, we're here to help you. So we have our team of dementia experts. Kristen is just one example of the incredible team of master's level social workers and other dementia experts who are here to answer questions, connect you to a resource, give you ideas, problem solve, right? In classes, we can talk kind of big picture, general ideas, but our dementia experts can talk to you one-on-one about your specific situation and help you kind of problem solve your way through it. I mentioned our virtual support groups. Of course, we have lots of education and training programs. I mentioned our volunteer tech team. We have social activities and outings. We have Care Partner Social Hours. It's just an hour to connect via Zoom. It's not a support group. It's not a class. It's just an opportunity to chat with other care partners. We offer those regularly. We have socially distanced, physically distanced outings out in the community. We do critter drive-ins where you can drive up at the Helen Woodward Animal Center and do like animal engagement safely in your car. It's super fun. We have a program called Baseballs, ALZ Baseballs, which is a baseball reminiscence program for people who enjoy baseball and talking about baseball. That will be happening this Friday, actually. We do that monthly. Lots of different opportunities to stay socially active, connected, engaged, even in this virtual environment. I mentioned our virtual ALS companions. We also have Vitals, which is our volunteers in touch, a telephone reassurance or check-in program for people with dementia who live alone. Sort of to check in for social engagement and a chat, but also just sort of see, do they need help making an appointment, arranging for some transportation, whatever it might be. And then finally, we do offer counseling sessions with the licensed clinical social worker for care partners who are in need of some more psychosocial support, right? You're feeling the weight of things on your shoulders, whatever it is, whatever assistance you need help with. If we don't do it, we probably know someone who does. So please reach out, let us know. You can reach us through our website. You can call us, you can email us, you can fill out the social work request form that Kristen is in the chat. She just sent out a link. You can fill that out and let us know what you need, or even don't worry about if you don't know what you need. Just fill out a request form and they'll give you a call and help you figure out what it is that you need. So please let us know how we can help you. I want to let you know about a couple of upcoming programs. This class, Communication Skills, is part of a 3-part caregiver skills series. So the final installment, if you will be the same time and place next week on the topic of managing resistance. You don't have to go to all 3. You can drop in on any of them, but they are sort of connected concepts. So just wanted to make sure you knew about that opportunity. And then if the person that you care for would be interested in learning about how to live with memory loss, we have a class coming up for them. Care partners are also invited Thursday, March 4th. So all of our classes are available through Zoom right now, right until we can get back to offering programming in person. They're all offered via Zoom webinar like this one, and information and pre-registration is up on the website. So I see that Kristen has sent out some information about the baseballs activity on Friday. Hope to see some of you there. I will be there. Go Padres. And I hope you will let us know how else we can help you. So that's the end of the webinar here. We'd love your feedback, a short survey. You'll get directed to it at the end of the webinar if you have a moment to complete it, to give feedback on this topic or on this program, or to give us ideas for other topics you'd like to learn about. They're anonymous, so please respond honestly and tell us how else we can support you. I know there were some questions about the program materials from today. Yes, we will send out an email later today with a copy of the slides I was speaking from here today. I will also include a link to that video that I showed you and a couple other resources that might be helpful. So if there's anything else you need, reach out, let us know. Thank you, Tyon, for being here to support everyone today. Thank you, Kristen, for your great work in the Q&A and helping out with that. And thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you. Yes, I see that suggestion there. I will do that. The links that went out in the chat, we'll include that in the email as well. Thank you. right, everyone. Have a great day.